In this video, we're going to go over the Hobbit novel study questions for chapters 5 to 8. Okay, chapter 5, Riddles in the Dark. Number 1, why was Bilbo so frightened when he regained consciousness? The Hobbit wasn't sure what was happening, and he was unable to see, hear, or feel anything at first. Question number 2, what does Bilbo find as he crawls blindly along the floor of the tunnel? Bilbo discovers a tiny cold metal ring that he immediately places in his pocket. Tolkien informs the reader that the ring is a turning point in Bilbo's career, indicating that it must be of great significance. Later, you will discover that the ring can make its wearer invisible. Bilbo uses it on numerous occasions throughout the story. Question number 3, why was Bilbo comforted by his dagger or small sword? Bilbo had observed earlier that these types of elvish weapons made a great impression on the goblins who came upon them suddenly. In essence, the goblins were scared of those objects. Question number 4, how was Bilbo able to see in the darkness? His dagger emitted a faint glimmer which enabled him to see, even though it was very faintly. Question number 5, why was Bilbo reluctant to wade in the water? It was because Bilbo couldn't swim. Number 6, who is Gollum and where does he live? Gollum is a strange creature that lives in the darkness on a slimy island of rock in the middle of an underground lake. He enjoyed eating meat, including fish and even goblins when he could get them. Number 7, explain the basic rules of the riddle game. Gollum and Bilbo, while reluctantly, agree to pose riddles to one another. If Gollum loses, he must lead Bilbo to safety, but if he wins, he gets to eat the Hobbit. Question number 8. Explain the power of Gollum's ring. The golden ring, when worn on your finger, renders you invisible. Only when exposed to sunlight could one catch a faint glimpse of the individual's shadow. Why did Gollum hurry right past Bilbo? Bilbo inadvertently slipped the ring on his forefinger and became invisible. Number 10, explain how Gollum unexpectedly aids the Hobbit in his escape. So Gollum thought that Bilbo had gone ahead and unknowingly led the Hobbit to the exit. Number 11, why are the goblins reluctant to pursue Bilbo Baggins once he is outside? The goblins have a strong aversion to sunlight as it makes their legs wobbly and their heads giddy. Chapter 6, out of the frying pan into the fire. Number 1, what did Bilbo Baggins intend to do if he was unable to find Gandalf or the dwarves? Bilbo thought if he wasn't unable to find his fellow adventurers that he should return to look for them, even if it meant putting his own life into jeopardy. Number 2, what did the dwarfs want to do when there was no sign of Bilbo? Despite Gandalf's protests, the dwarves argued that it was Bilbo's own fault for getting separated from the others, and that they, the dwarves, should continue on their adventure without him, especially as he created the problems, as he created more problems than he solved. This makes an interesting contrast to Bilbo, who was willing to risk his own life to help the dwarves. Number 3, how might you use the power of the golden ring if you possessed it? Now, this would be an interesting one for a group discussion. So I hope most of you wrote down something saying that you would use it for noble purposes, not evil. Question number 4. Why did Gandalf encourage the adventurers to hurry on their way? It was getting dark and the goblins came out after dark. Number 5, what noise did they hear as they stepped into the clearing? They heard a long, shuddering howl coming from the wolves who had gathered together to howl at the moon. Question number 6, explain the significance of this chapter. The expression means escaping one dangerous situation only to find yourself in a similar or worse predicament. Thus, the fire would be worse than being in the frying pan. However, according to the narrator, the original proverb stated, escaping goblins to be caught by wolves, which is exactly what is happening to the troop of adventurers. Question number 7. Why would the ring not protect Bilbo from the wolves or the wargs? The wolves had a keener sense of smell than the goblins, and so they could find their prey without actually seeing them. Who helped Bilbo escape into the tree? Dori, one of the dwarves, climbed down from the tree to allow the shorter Bilbo to stand on his back and climb into the tree. Dori only just barely escaped one of the wolves who snapped at his cloak. Question number 9. Why did the wolves alert the goblins to the adventurers who are hiding in the trees? They know that goblins, unlike the wargs, are able to climb trees. Who rescued the party of question number 10? Who rescued the party of adventurers from their perilous position in the trees? The Lord of the Eagles led his fellow birds as they plucked the trapped adventurers from the treetops with their talons and carried them to safety. Chapter 7, Queer Lodgings. Number 1, why did Bilbo pinch the eagle? Well, obviously, Bilbo was scared. He had never had his feet off the ground before, and he obviously was clenching onto the bird far too tightly. Question number 2. What announcement caused the dwarfs to moan and Bilbo to weep? Gandalf the wizard announced that he would no longer be able to accompany the party of adventurers on their journey. Question number 3. According to Gandalf, what are 2 possibilities explaining the origin of the Bjorn? Gandalf explained that the Bjorn might either be a bear descended from a great and ancient bear of the mountains, or that he may be a man descended from the first man who lived before the time of Smaug. Question 4. How does Gandalf prove himself to be a great manipulator when he is talking Bjorn? Gandalf realizes that Bjorn doesn't normally invite people into his house, especially such a large number. To outmaneuver him, Gandalf starts telling their tale to Bjorn, allowing for frequent interruptions, both to introduce a couple of new dwarves at a time and to maintain the host's interest. Number 5. What information does Bjorn glean in his travels to the Wolf Glade? Bjorn captured a warg and a goblin, and they in turn told Bjorn that the wargs and the goblins were upset about the killing of the great goblin and the burning of the chief wolf's nose. They also informed Bjorn that a search party had been formed in order to hunt down the dwarves and take their revenge. Number 6. What gruesome sight did Bjorn reveal to the adventurers when asked by Bilbo what happened to the captured wolf and goblin? Bjorn revealed the head of the goblin stuck outside the gate, while the skin of the wolf was nailed to a tree just beyond that. Number 7. What warnings does Bjorn give the travelers about proceeding through Mirkwood? Bjorn warned the travelers not to drink from the enchanted stream, as it causes drowsiness and forgetfulness, and most importantly, the band of adventurers must not stray from the path, or their journey will be fraught with peril. Question number 8. What shadowy form did Bilbo think he had seen on the 3rd evening of their journey? Bilbo was convinced that he had seen the shadowy form of a great bear prowling along the same direction as the travelers. Question number 9. What were Gandalf's final cautionary words as he bade farewell to the dwarfs and Bilbo? Don't leave the path. Chapter 8. Flies and spiders. Number 1. Why were the travelers unable to cross over the stream by bridge? The bridge had rotted and collapsed, forcing the travelers to cross the stream by boat, which they first had to retrieve from the opposite bank through the use of a rope. Question number 2. Describe what happened to Bombur as he was about to step into the boat. A wild deer jumped over Bomber's head, throwing the dwarf off balance and causing him to tumble into the enchanted stream. Bomber immediately fell asleep and would have drowned if it were not for the quick actions of his companions. Question number 3. Explain how Bomber's unfortunate incident slowed their travels. As Bomber had fallen asleep, it was necessary for the others to carry him. Question number 4. Explain why Bilbo and the dwarfs strayed from the path. Despite the warnings of the wizard and Bjorn, the party of travelers had found themselves without food. After much discussion, they finally agreed to leave the path in pursuit of lights they had spotted in the distance, hoping to find food. Each time they approached the lights were quickly extinguished until the travelers found themselves completely lost and disoriented well off the path. Question number 5. What did Bilbo discover was happening to him when he awoke? Bilbo woke just in time to discover that the great spider had been tying him up as he slept. The Hobbit quickly fought back at the spider and managed to kill the spider with his sword. Question number 6. Explain the transformation of Bilbo Baggins' character as he renames his sword Sting. Bilbo has found an inner strength, perhaps because for the first time not only has he defended himself, he was actually able to vanquish a foe. Question number 7. Why is Bilbo horrified when he stumbles upon the dwarves in a dark part of the Mirkwood forest? The dwarves have all been wrapped up in web and are hanging like cocoons from the tree branches waiting to be devoured by the huge spiders. 8. Why was Bilbo so adroit at throwing stones? Bilbo had spent much of his childhood hunting small game, and he also played types of games that required him to develop and refine his aiming skills with rocks. 9. Summarize Bilbo's rescue of the dwarfs. Bilbo first threw stones at the spiders to get their attention, and then proceeded to lead them off in a wild goose chase. Later, he backtracked to the dwarves and managed to cut them free. Question number 10. What do the dwarves discover when they take a head count? The dwarves discover that Thorin is missing.